They and you could have chosen a life that is easy and safe, but shallow and pale.
You were looking at kids whose lives were altered.
We, even at that age, we didn't like the fact that someone had attacked America.
That's when we started realizing, you know what, we have it pretty good here.
We wanted to serve our country, give something back. We were raised that way.
I think it had an effect on him joining the Marines.
And nothing was going to make him change his mind about it, nothing.
Don't let the 3 Marines come to my house, please. Give me one more day, give me one more day.
It was that same kind of feeling as 9/11, like this is not going to be good.
Probably thought like Jay. I didn't think he was going to die.
He knew what his purpose was here, and he conquered it.
He knew what he was getting into was for his country.
It's an honor for him to, go this way.
Killed in action. 6 August 2009. While conducting combat operations against enemy forces in Farah Province, Afghanistan.
It's strange that such varied paths should all lead to this same place, here, now. Today we are gathered to honor 5 individuals who came from very different homes, grew to adulthood under different circumstances, and were the sum of very different experiences. Their paths started in Texas, New York, Colorado, and Puerto Rico, yet they all brought them here to us. While in every other way they could not have been more different, in one overriding characteristic they were the same. They were men of purpose.
Jim, just a few moments ago, something believed to be a plane crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center.
Make no mistake, the United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts.
They and you could have chosen a life that is easy and safe, but shallow and pale. Instead, they chose a life defined by hardship and sacrifice. They, like yourselves, were not content with a self-absorbed, aimless little life, but found something greater in the service of their nation. But more importantly, they've lived their lives amongst you, because they chose to, and it was where they belong. These men must not be defined by how they died, only by how they lived.
It was James's first week in high school when the planes flew into the Twin Towers. It was the first day for freshmen. And then this was their first day walking into classrooms. And they don't know anyone, because these kids all come from different places. So they're all sitting there very timid and shy, and I'm trying to make them feel comfortable. And I got a knock on the door from the priest who said, there's going to be an announcement, there's a problem in the city, there's a disaster. He said the plane has hit the World Trade Center. And immediately, the cell phones came out and the kids were crying, and all I kept thinking was, this can't be happening. What is happening to them? They were babies, they were so little. I mean, they were little. Every single person in this building was affected personally, and I can say that surely. You know, like either their classmates lost a parent, or they had brothers or sisters who were there, which was the case. And you know, now we have like I call them the 9/11 orphans. You were looking at kids whose lives were altered, and that really struck me. Like, these kids will never ever be the same. Here they are, even the older kids, innocent, dopey, idiotic children, are now looking at the world in a totally different way. And it was evident from the moment it happened. It was awful. It was just awful.
James grew up in Farmingdale, a small town on Long Island not far from New York City.
This is St. Killian's coming up here on the right.
The church.
And across the street is the rectory and a chapel, and that's where he was baptized, was over there in the chapel. And then, of course, First Communion and Confirmation were here in this church, and then, of course, the service.
Ever since he was a child, James wanted to be in the military.
Did he ever talk about the fact that he was growing up in a different world?
Not so much. No, not so much. He seemed to concentrate more on, you know, his daily life and his friends and the music and, you know, what they were doing. I have no idea if he and his friends talked about it. But
he kept a lot inside.
He did.
He wasn't one to broadcast a lot of stuff. He just kept a lot inside. You know, it's the way he was.
James could work for hours with the stage crew. He would work behind the scenes for the productions.
If you talk to anybody in this building, stage crew is the most underappreciated, unknown group of kids, and they work so hard. You know, like, they're never on stage, they're never getting the glory.
What do they do?
They build the sets. That's what they do for theater productions. And then they move the props during theater. And nobody ever acknowledges them. But that's so typical of him, because that's how he was, you know?
He didn't need his glory.
No, he didn't like the glory. No.
He took a music lesson, he took piano lessons, but his main instrument was a guitar. And he really got into them. You know, listening to them, playing them. He liked all kinds of music.
Music and reading and writing. He liked to write as well.
Very creative person.
Yeah, he was.
He was, you know, I don't think he was crazy patriotic, but he wanted to do something. And I don't think he really knew what he wanted to do. He just wanted to do something with his life. Where some of his friends were like quite the opposite. They were like, life sucks, life's awful, like that, you know. And they went that route. And unfortunately, they continued on that route. You know, like, so the same year that James died, one of his best friends died of a heroin overdose.
I knew he had to make his own decision. And I was, you know, fully in support of what he wanted to do. Of course, I knew what the worst case could be, and I didn't like that much, but, you know, I didn't dwell on it, because I thought, you know, it could be a good thing for him where he was with his life at that point. And he certainly was convinced that it was the thing for him to do.
I met Travis just a few months after 9/11. He was 12 years old and just moved to San Antonio, a town in the south of Texas. It happened at a time when we were just able to pick up our heads and start thinking for ourselves, start making our own judgment calls on the world. And so, and even to this point, it's kind of the only world we've known. So it's a little weird. We can remember a time when the world was a little calmer, politics were different, etc. Times were a little more innocent, I guess you could say, even for us. But our mindsets were framed by the post-9/11 society, so for us, it's all we've known. We were, well, not were, still are, extremely pro-American. We, even at that age, we didn't like the fact that someone had attacked America, and we honestly held a grudge against it, and still do. And for us, it was a reason to fight against those who actively wanted to destroy America.
The military is in the very fabric of Travis's life because he grew up in a family of people who served. He was so smart and he had a wide range of interests. He could have gone into anything. But he was so focused on the military his last 3 years in high school that he just never really even talked about anything else.
It's like if he had done anything different, it would have been weird, like a badly written book. It was like when I met him, he wanted to join the military. I don't know how solidified the Marines specifically were back then, but at some point he decided on the Marines.
Do you know why?
Honestly, I don't know specifically why. I think he just, after he researched the branches, he liked them the most. He liked the fact that they were first to fight. When there is a call, the Marines are the first to go in. He wanted to be that person. He wanted to be the one to go in right away and say, as a Bible verse of his mentioned, and God asked who will go to war, and I raised my hand and said, I will. That was his mindset entirely.
To Travis, Camp Capers is a very special place. Camp Capers is a Christian camp for youth looking for spiritual retreat and friendship. He connected spiritually a lot with God here. And not only that, but he was able to do that with other spiritual people here too.
How did you feel about Travis joining?
I didn't feel good about it at all, actually. It was very heavy in my heart. I was very much worried that he could be killed. Something that was immediately ingrained in the back of my mind. Because he was a very important part of my life, and still is. It was his calling, and I believe in Travis, and I believe that he accurately discerned that. I really do believe that he was really called to do that, and I'm really glad that he decided to do exactly what he thought was right, and I'm just amazed by the amount of courage that he had to go through with such an unpredictable path that would be full of danger, challenge, and struggle. And whether he thought about that or not, he never mentioned it. He would only talk about what he was deciding to do, and nothing was going to make him change his mind about it, nothing.
Jay lived for sports. He loved it. He loved to just run up and hit somebody head on. He knew he could knock anybody down at any time, and the thing was he liked to prove it on every play. He did not take a play off. Jay was a great American football player. He gave 100% in everything he did on and off the field.
What do you think he liked about playing American football?
Physicality. He loved to be physical. Like say, as we got older, he went to just defense and played linebacker, which is the heart of your defense. It's the most aggressive person on the field, has to be, and that's what he was bred for. He was a very gifted athlete. Football is where he excelled.
But does that mean he could have made a career?
He could have. He probably would still be playing today because, like I say, he didn't give up on anything. If it's what if he started it, he's going to finish it. And that's, if he would have went football, he would have done it. He really would have.
Well, it's a kind of a typical Texas town. There's not, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I don't live there. There's not a lot of opportunities there, employment opportunities. There are a couple of factories there, but it's, unfortunately, the majority of young people have to move away to find employment. Jay, he made the best of things. I mean, he said the same thing that I said. You can't stay there all your life, but it was a good place to grow up. My family, going back over 100 years, they've all been in the military. I was the first Marine, and I enjoyed what I did. I dropped out of college, went in the Marines, and I felt that it was one of the best moves for me. It opened up a lot of doors for me afterwards, but I excelled in it and I enjoyed it. And Jay, at a very impressionable young age, is when I was in. He admired that fact that I was in the Marines, and I think that maybe that's why he gravitated towards that.
He believed in America, the freedom that we have. You know, when 9/11 happened in our world, that's when we kind of started paying attention to other countries, how their lives were. And that's when we started realizing, you know what, we have it pretty good here. And he knew that, and he wanted to keep it that way.
Was he willing to risk his life?
He was. He knew what he was doing. He knew the risk involved. As a person, I think it bothered him. I think he knew what he had. He knew he had a great life outside. And was he ready to give all that up? No, you never are. But for what he believed in, he was willing to go the extra mile.
I don't think that he thought he had to give his life. He had much to live for. He had a wife who loved him. He had two children.
One child at the time, yeah.
One child, he knew the other one was on the way.
Was he able to share the happy news with you?
Yes. We spoke on the phone, and he knew that Chandler was expecting. At the time, he didn't know he was having another son. He wanted a daughter, is what he said, just because he already had a son. But he would have been thrilled with Jay, his son now. But he didn't know. He didn't know at the time.
Christian lived most of his life in Homestead, a town near the Florida Keys. I'm young, we're the same age. And I've never met a guy that young who knew exactly what he wanted to do with himself. Like, he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and there was nothing gonna get in his way. Not even the closest person to him, which is his mom, was gonna stop him from becoming what he became. And I felt like he knew what his purpose was here, and he conquered it. And he did a hell of a job at it.
I'm a mother of a national hero. He was my everything, everything. Even when I was pregnant, I always say, like, I want a boy, no girl at all, no girl. And then at that time, they do not do sonograms and things like that. Now you could find out. And I was even having nightmares all the time, thinking I'm gonna have a girl. And then, and then things like that. But no, he was, and he's still my everything, my everything. He always wanted to be the best. He never liked to lose. No, he compete for something. He will not accept. That was since little. He would not like to lose in a game, in cards, playing cards. Oh no, that would make him very upset. So that became with his personality since he was little.
It says, thanks for all the banana splits and all the fun times we had in the last couple of months. It was good knowing you. When I come back from the Marines, hopefully I'll have all my body parts. Love always, Christian.
So when did he give you this picture?
A few months before we graduated high school. That's his graduation picture.
But that was before he joined the Marines?
Yes, we were still in high school.
Okay, but did he already know?
He always knew he wanted to join.
He wanted to go in the military. I delayed it for a while, and I say, we are in war. He graduates in 2006. And I say, oh no, you're not going to the military. You know, you're exposing yourself. It's a war, and the war is nothing good about it. And then he decided to be a firefighter. That was kind of close because it's like a military education too. You gotta use a uniform, you represent someone in the community, and people admire you. When you pass by, everybody. So he likes that, the adrenaline. He never wanted to be behind a desk. For me, that made me feel good. You know, my son a firefighter. I dreamed like one day he will pass and say, "Hey, Mom," you know, right there. See him dressing like that, and yeah, definitely.
Christian loved firefighting. I was inspired by my brother, which led me to do the same. Everything he do was like my hero, you know? With shoes, muscles, with girls, everything. I always looked up to him. He would get mad because I would copy him and everything, and he'd be like, bro, you need to stop copying me. Do your own thing. But I never did. I always did my own thing.
You really looked up to him?
Yeah, a lot.
Why didn't he go get a job as a firefighter after he ended the academy?
There was a wait. In Miami-Dade, there's a wait, so he didn't want to wait.
A wait for a job? He didn't want to wait?
No.
One day he told me, like, he was leaving. I said, where are you going? I thought that he was going to go on vacation. And he said, no, I'm going to the Marines. And I said, no way, you're not going to the Marines? And he said, yes, I'm going. I already signed my papers and everything. And I said, no, you didn't do that. And he said, yes. I said, are you sure what you're doing? You know you're risking your life. You know that you're going to go to war.
She was like shocked and I guess devastated, you know? Nobody wants to see their child leave. And but there was nothing really she could do. He already had signed all the papers and stuff, and that's what he really wanted to do. So that was it. It is what it is, you know?
Even though Christian knew he was hurting the person that he loved most, he decided to join the Marines. I think it was just something that he knew he had to do for himself, and this was the first time he was putting himself first, and something that he knew that he had to do. and he knew eventually she would have been proud of him, of becoming something. So I knew that he went in knowing that he was going to become something, and eventually she would have been happy for him.
My son Anthony is born and buried in the shadow of the Rocky Mountains. As a little boy, Anthony wanted to become an electrician just like me. Don't do it, I said. You have so much more in you. He was going to do what it took to be what he chose to be. Anthony chose to become a corpsman, and he was going to be the best at it. He was going to take care of his Marines. That was his purpose, was to take care of his Marines.
Anthony and I both enlisted in the Navy in Panama City, Florida, and we became corpsmen. There's a saying, a Marine only needs two things in the field. That's God and Doc. And he's the reason, of course, I became a corpsman like him. We both joined together and did the same thing. So he wanted to be a SEAL eventually. I was complacent.
But that is like top of the bill, isn't it, becoming a SEAL?
It's every little macho boy's dream. So they're tough, and those who make it deserve it.
Anthony was a natural-born runner, just like I am. He was always training, always running, lifting weights. Any chance he got, he would jump down and start doing some push-ups. He was just, when he decided that he wanted to do something, he really put his heart and soul into it. When you join the Navy, you have to pick something that you want to do. And he picked the medical field. And, so that was his first choice of what he wanted to do. And so that's what he was doing. And I think at some point in time, he just realized the training for the SEAL, I don't know if he realized it wasn't attainable. I don't think it was that. He just kept pursuing being a corpsman.
I know he was interested in medicine. As we've talked, he wanted to be a doctor, amongst many things. So he's determined to do it all. But he wanted to be a doctor. It was being an FMF corpsman, going with the Marines. It's the best you can give. You go to combat, you save lives, you're there.
That was his job. Those were his Marines. Anthony wholeheartedly, every time I would talk, my Marines, Dad. These are my 20 Marines, and he meant every bit of it. I could hear it in his voice that those were his boys. They were his guys, and he was going to protect them at all costs. At all costs.
It's an honor for us to be able to do that. To be able to serve the Marines, and it's earned. The bond you form with your Marines, it's unbreakable. They trust you with their life, and you trust them with yours.
Was Anthony willing to risk his life?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Is that something you ever spoke about?
No. It's in the back of everybody's head, but you fight for your freedom. That's what America's based upon, and that's what we want to do. We wanted to serve our country, give something back, and we were raised that way.
Anthony really didn't talk about the risk. It was like that wasn't part of the equation for him. That was not a problem to him. That he knew what he was getting into was for his country.
The loss of Garcia has been felt heavily throughout the platoon. We are honored to have had such a great corpsman and a great friend. There are good corpsmen, and there are great corpsmen. The great ones earn the nickname Doc. It's obvious which category Doc Garcia fell into.
He was Doc. He was the epitome of a corpsman. He is what a corpsman is, and he was proud of it. And I was proud to say that me and my friend were both corpsmen. Every time I met somebody, me and my buddy joined buddy system, we're both corpsmen. He's here, I'm here. And it was sad to hear that he passed, but he was the epitome of a corpsman. He took care of his Marines, put his life in front of theirs to make sure that they were taken care of.
Travis understood service. He responded to God's calling on his life through service in the military. When they were deploying, he actually sent a text message out to all of his friends and said, well, some people have asked me why I joined the Marine Corps. Well, I heard the Lord ask who would go to war, and I raised my hand.
But go and do something. Go, therefore. When you go, I am with you always.
He knew what his purpose was, and he set about doing it. He didn't let anything dissuade him. We tried, but he knew what he was supposed to do, and he did it.
First thing I'm going to talk about is what Lance Corporal Babine was not. He was not your typical Marine or your typical young man. He didn't drink, he didn't party, he didn't lie, cheat, or steal. What Lance Corporal Babine was, he was a religious man, he was a friend, he was a hard worker, and he was the example of how somebody should treat others. He was the example of a Marine.
He stood his ground because he knew what his principles were, he knew what he believed in, and he knew what he stood for, and he knew why he was there.
Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally begotten of the Father, God from God, light from light, true God from true God.
Where did Travis get his faith from? Did you raise him with the church?
Yes. He was baptized as a baby. We raised him in the church the whole time. I can tell you specifically that his birth was what brought me back to God. I won't say that I spent all those years telling God, you gave me a gift, I'm gonna give I give him back to you. I can tell you that I spent the entire time after Travis enlisted talking to God and saying, he's yours. Whatever your will is what I want.
How does your faith help you to reason with his death?
It's the only thing I've got that I can hang on to.
It's the only thing that makes sense. I know I will see him. I know where he is. I know I will be there. I just have to get from now to then.
Sergeant Hoskins leaves behind his wife Chandler and one son. Like my wife, Chandler is 4 months pregnant.
My mom told me when we decided to marry each other, she's like, you know the risk you're taking marrying someone in the service, and I did. And it's not an easy one, but when you love someone enough, it's worth it. And he was so passionate about it that it was worth it to him too. And he knew he wasn't just going out there being crazy, risking his life. It was for a purpose.
He knew that's what he needed to do. And he didn't question that was, it was his turn to go. He just said, that's when I'm going and I'll be back, It was never a sad thing for him. He just knew that was part of what he had joined to do. I don't recall him, talking about not coming home. His plan was just to go, get his time done, and be back home, with Chandler and Tristan.
There you go. He used to tell me all the time, there's lovers and fighters in this world, and I'm a fighter and you're a lover. And I believe that too. I do. And I think he was definitely born to fight in a good way, obviously. But yeah, he wouldn't have taken it back. Even if he knew this was going to happen, he wouldn't take it back. He told me if he were ever to die, this is the way he would want to go. He did tell me that. He used to tell me that a lot. So it's an honor for him to, go this way.
How did you hear the news?
I heard a knock at the door, and this knock kept going, and I felt like, I gotta get up. This is something big. And I remember walking down the stairs, and you have to go down the stairs to get to the front door, and I remember seeing the hat of one of the Marines, and I knew exactly what it was. And
she called me here when the Marines came to her house. I was the first one that she called because she didn't know who else to talk to. I didn't handle it well. I probably thought like Jay. I didn't think he was gonna die.
On my husband's birthday, it was kind of a crazy thing. I woke up and I just went into labor. It was kind of a miracle birth, and we went out. I told my sister, I said, I'm going into labor. Like, I'm having labor pains right now. I'm having contractions. And she's like, no way. And I was like, yes, I am. So we went out to the cemetery first so that I could, see my husband and tell him happy birthday. Of course, it was an emotional day, and the labor was so quick. The first one, it was 18 hours, and the second one was like 20 minutes maybe. So he was honestly a miracle baby. He was an angel, and both of them were. But I think that God knew that I needed another little boy. I think that's why He blessed me with a boy.
These boys are missing out on more than they'll ever know. He was not. I mean, he was just a good man, and he was doing what he knew to be a good father. And it's a tragedy that his sons are going to grow up without his influence. It's It's a tragedy.
His purpose was to be a father and a husband and a warrior. I do. I think that, which is rare for a man to do all three of those things and be good at them, but he was. And I honestly believe that was his purpose, was to be. He loved his family so much. And he loved being a Marine. And so I think that he was definitely a man of purpose.
Of course, I was also very proud of him, but when he left for Afghanistan, I couldn't sleep anymore. I didn't sleep at all. My time, when I used to lay down for hours, for a few hours here, then never sleep all way long. I thought that I will miss his call. I just sleep with my cellular phone in the side, the house phone, all the phones, and I was sleeping, laying down just waiting for that call, because when past 2 days, I will get very anxious, completely anxious, and I even control myself. And I say, Belma, you don't lose it. You got to keep control of your actions. You got to keep control of your personality, yourself. You got to be able, don't think bad. Every day, I was thinking don't let the 3 Marines come to my house, please. Give me one more day, give me one more day. Every day I say, oh my Lord, just take my life, don't take my son's life, just like that. Take mine, switch it, please, my place with him. Give him chance to live more, just like that, and it didn't happen yet. Until the 3 Marines came to my house that day. That was one of the most terrible days of my life. That was bad. I heard 3 car doors close. I looked up and I saw the 3 Marines. From that moment on, everything, I was in slow motion. My legs started shaking. My face started shaking that I had to bite like this to control it, to control my face. And I was waiting for them to come. They were walking slowly right in front of me. Probably that would take them a minute for me, it was like a long period of time, no? When they stand in front of me, they ask me, that was Belma Torres? I say yes. And then they say, we need to pass to your house, go inside, we need to talk to you. Then I asked them, do you have bad news for me? And they did like this,
I was home when his mom called me. She lived down the street from me. And she called me, she's like, oh, where are you? And you're out of work already, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm home. Why? She's like, you need to come over here right now. There's 3 Marines here and Christian passed away. So right after that, I rushed over there and she was by herself with the 3 Marines. And they told us what happened. And at first, it felt like a movie.
At that moment, everything changed. It's like someone took your heart and rip it off right there. It's a very strong feeling. It's so painful that you could lose your mind.
It didn't really hit me until the day we had to pick him up at the airport. To me, it was harder for me that day than his funeral, because that was the day that it made it real, that it really had happened.
I go to his graveside every day.
Corporal Guzman loved being a Marine. He told me once that it gave him purpose and meaning and showed the world that he wasn't lazy. I never saw anyone work as hard as he did. I admired Guzman because he could speak his mind about just about anything and have a sense of humor while doing it.
he was promoted 5 days before to E4 corporal, and then he was all excited and he was happy, and yes, he said that he loves to be a Marine. He was loving what he was doing. He said that we are here to do our mission, to do our job, and that's what we gotta do. Someone has to do it, Mommy.
Do you think his death contributed to a better and safer world?
Yes, definitely. But like I say, someone has to do it. This been happening in many wars. This is not the only one. How many sacrifices people did, soldiers did, for we enjoyed this beautiful day. We could do whatever we want, but because someone has to pay the ultimate sacrifice for us to enjoy that.
Because so many people live on Long Island and work in Manhattan, I think New York City and Long Island were most profoundly affected. And that's not to say that the United States was not affected, because that's not what I mean. It's just, I think we're a different type of group because we were so profoundly affected. It was right in your face. For example, in the case of Bobby, his father's body was never found, and there was no service. And Bobby Farrelly went through 4 years at St. Anthony's and never talked about it.
No, they never found him. And from what I've read, I think more than half of the victims have never been found, or their remains have never been identified. And that was, for me, I found really difficult because we never found anything out. It was just a case of going from one day to the next, and then weeks later, months later, and just thinking, like, at what point do you draw the line between having hope and being consumed by denial?
I think it had an effect on him joining the Marines. I think it's the reason he joined them.
Because of 9/11?
Yeah. I think it had an effect on him.
And what way do you think did that influence him?
I think it might have pushed him towards him. Yeah, there might have been other factors too, but I think it was one of the factors why he joined, why he felt so strong about it.
His drive to be in the Marines, pushed him along when he had so many people saying, no, don't do it. But he knew that's where he needed to go.
I think from my perspective, I've always felt, and I know other people that have expressed the same, that people like me feel a debt of gratitude to them, because even though we have already lost the person that was close to us, and you can't undo that, it's still really meaningful to me, at least, that somebody would be willing to put their life on the line as a way as a response to that tragedy, and maybe for people that they'd never even met.
I remember getting a message from a very dear friend of James, Facebooking me saying, which, kids Facebook me all the time, but Facebooking me saying, Miss Creighton, can you please call my cell phone? And it was that same kind of feeling as 9/11, like this is not going to be good. And I called him, and he just cried and cried and cried, and I didn't know what to do again. 2 days later, we had a memorial here because the body wasn't going to be returned till a couple of days later. So we had, we used Facebook, social media queen that I am. We used Facebook, and we just put it out there that we would open the church the chapel, and whoever wanted to come could come, and we'd have a mass. And it was beautiful.
He was a good wingman, and he knew how to get the best out of everyone. But for those who had the luxury of getting to know James, I could say this for all of us. We will never forget the good and the bad times we shared with him. We will strike down all responsible. No mercy will be given. You will be missed.
He's not the first, and he's unfortunately
And he's not going to be the last, no. Mm-mm. And I don't know how long this is going to continue either, you know. I feel like we've lost the focus or something. I don't know what's happening, to tell you the truth. I'm anti-war. But, I mean, I guess I understood it a long time ago why we got involved, but I'm beginning to wonder what the reason is anymore.
You're losing sons and daughters in the war. These kids are our future. They don't have to go, there's no draft, they just sign up.
But they do choose to sign up.
Yeah.
They do.
Nobody's telling them they gotta go, they're going on their own.
Very brave. You know, I think they want to make a difference. They want to make a difference in other people's lives. They want to make a difference in their own lives. And they do.
They will remain forever young, men who sacrificed themselves for our nation, for this battalion, and for you. And because of who they were and who you are, when this ceremony is over, all of you will climb into your vehicles or head out on foot to get back in the fight. You will do it today, tonight, and every day until we go home.
We are meeting our goals. As a result, starting next month, we will be able to remove 10,000 of our troops from Afghanistan by the end of this year, and we will bring home a total of 33,000 troops by next summer. By 2014, this process of transition will be complete. We draw inspiration from our fellow Americans who have sacrificed so much on our behalf. To our troops, our veterans, and their families, I speak for all Americans when I say that we will keep our sacred trust with you.